Energy assault. What is energy assault? And can you really sue someone for bringing a peanut butter sandwich to work? Elizabeth Goldenberg is North America's top allergy legal expert. She's also the mother of a child with a life-threatening allergy. We're talking safety, living well, and how a tomato sandwich led to criminal charges. And she joins me now. Good morning.
Good morning, Tommy. Thanks for having me on today.
How did you come to specialize in something as specific as this?
About 10 years ago, I found out that my son Jacob has a life-threatening allergy to peanuts and to all other nuts. And I take things seriously, and I researched safety precautions. My focus was safety. I guess it just came to me that way. And about a year later, I realized I had the information I needed for him to live well with his allergies, to have access to medication, to know precisely how it should be used. And about 5 years ago, I launched my blog and started to communicate about it, and I realized that I was forming the bridge between allergists and their patients, and my legal background came in handy. I'm a lawyer by trade originally, and I'm also the bridge between allergy victims and the legal system.
Well, tell me about that legal system. Everyone talking right now about seasonal allergies. I'm wondering, can I take a municipality to court if they don't do something about all the ragweed growing on city property?
Absolutely not. There's no control over ragweed in the outdoors. There's no obligation to remove it or anything like that. You simply have to pay attention to the pollen counts. Take antihistamines if they help you. If you're asthmatic, make sure that you're keeping your asthma in very close control. Some people modify their lifestyle so that the pollen doesn't provoke them as much.
Well, I think here in Montreal, I think there are rules and regulations for private property that you have to get rid of ragweed.
On private property?
On private property, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm in Ontario, and we don't have those regulations here. What the worst case scenario, if there is that obligation in Quebec from failure to remove, would probably be like a severe asthmatic reaction that could lead to death if it's not properly contained. If you saw that sort of scenario and you could somehow link it directly to this particular property, the ragweed pollen that I inhaled didn't come from my other neighbor's property, it came from yours. You could attempt to bring a suit. You'd certainly have a loss in that case, but I think it would be difficult to prove since you're talking about inhaling pollen in the air. It's less of a direct connection.
Elizabeth Goldenberg is North America's top allergy legal expert. To find out more about what she does, you can go to blog.onespotallergy.com or epicentermedical.com. Tell me about the issue of allergy bullying. What is it, and can you give me a real-world example of it?
Oh, for sure. Bullying is not a new phenomenon. It's getting a lot of play now, and it should not be tolerated, obviously. As the population of allergic children increases, at this point it's about 1 in 13 or 1 in 10, depending on what studies you read. You're going to see a couple allergic children in most classrooms, and it's a difference for these kids. It's a vulnerability for these kids, and occasionally it gets exploited. I received a call from a mother in Pembroke, Ontario, who was devastated when her grade 2 son came running home, tore off his shirt, started washing himself, crying. What had happened to him was in the closing Mass at the end of his Catholic school day, in Mass, another grade 2 leaned forward to him and said, "Are you the child with the peanut allergy?" And our children are used to explaining their allergy, and obviously there's no shame in it. I mean, we have people with all sorts of medical conditions and emotional and psychological conditions. They're just known about each other. He says, "Yes, I am." And this other boy says, "I just ate peanuts for my snack." He's in a segregated classroom in the basement, but they come together for Mass time, and this is supposed to be a peanut and nut safe school, but he said, "Oh, I just ate peanuts for my snack." And he deliberately touched this boy during the Mass all around his collar and all up his neck. And the boy was frightened. You certainly don't want to be touched with your allergen, especially if you have, confirmed life-threatening allergy. He's a small child. He's been touched without his permission. He didn't feel safe that day. He had a substitute teacher, so he didn't alert the teacher. His impulse was to run home. And that is very serious and grave behavior that this boy took. In other situations, we
now. So, what would be the result? I mean, could his after what he went through, could his parents sue the school or sue the parent of that other child?
Well, you wouldn't have a lawsuit in that case because he didn't suffer a physical loss.
Right.
It was an emotional event. When you look at the bullying provisions in schools, this sort of behavior calls for a very escalated response. It's not just a call home. I mean, you call both parents, you bring the parents in, you can consider what he did using a weapon. It's not a slow escalation where we give warnings after warnings, and the sixth time this happens, there's consequences that matter. You have to jump in full blown.
But in this case, nothing happened. Won't that encourage some parents to say, you see, he says he's got a life-threatening allergy. He's touched by somebody who had peanuts. Nothing happened to him, and that it's blown out of proportion. What would you tell a parent like that?
Well, I mean, you would expect people generally could tolerate some allergen on their skin, right? It needs to get into your system through your eyes, nose, or mouth. But having it on your body, having it on surfaces makes it more likely that that's going to happen, right? You're always going to find a couple parents in a school population who say exactly that. Even as far as why should this matter to me? Even if your son could have a serious reaction, if my kid's eating peanut butter and it gets into your kid's system and causes a severe reaction, why should I care? Why does it matter to me? I've met parents like that. There were 5 parents like that at my son's school at one point. And what I told them is if they ignore the provisions in the school, and in our case, it is a peanut and nut safe school. 90% of our elementary schools in Ontario have peanut and nut safety precautions. And if they chose to ignore it, saying, you can't search me and you can't arrest me and I can do it and I have a right somehow to eat peanut butter here rather than at home in the morning or after school for snack. I need to eat it here for lunch. And something happens to my child, the reason you should care is that you will be named in the law.